The lights of America's Got Talent were brighter than ever that night, but no one in the audience was prepared for the quiet teenage boy standing alone at center stage. He didn't look like a superstar. He didn't look confident. He looked nervous, almost fragile, like someone who had wandered into the wrong place by accident. And yet, in just a few minutes, this Filipino teen would shock Simon Cowell, silence the crowd, and turn one of the most iconic songs in music history into a deeply emotional moment no one would ever forget. Before we begin, if you love real-life stories that inspire, surprise, and move hearts across America and the world, make sure you subscribe right now and turn on notifications, because stories like this remind us that talent can come from anywhere, even the most unexpected places. His name was Miguel Santos, a 16-year-old from a small coastal town in the Philippines where electricity sometimes went out without warning and dreams often felt bigger than reality. Miguel had grown up in a tiny house made of patched wood and tin, the kind that rattled loudly when storms came in from the ocean. His father was a fisherman who left before sunrise and returned after dark, exhausted and smelling of salt and diesel. His mother worked long hours cleaning houses, always tired, always worried about money, but never once complaining in front of her children. Music was not something Miguel was trained in. There were no vocal coaches, no music schools, no fancy microphones. Music was something that came from an old radio his father had found at a junk shop years ago. The radio only worked if you held the antenna at a strange angle, but late at night, when everyone else was asleep, Miguel would sit quietly and listen to stations from far away. One night, he heard a song that changed everything. It was Billie Jean by Michael Jackson. Miguel didn't understand all the words at first, but he felt the rhythm deep in his chest. The beat was sharp, confident, unstoppable. Michael Jackson's voice sounded fearless, yet emotional, powerful yet controlled. Miguel replayed that song over and over in his mind, tapping rhythms on the table, humming softly so he wouldn't wake anyone. Over time, Billie Jean became more than a song to him. It became an escape, a secret world where he could imagine a life bigger than the one he was born into. School was not easy for Miguel. He was shy, small for his age, and often teased for his quiet nature. Other kids didn't know that after school, he helped his father mend fishing nets or carried heavy buckets of water home. They didn't know that when storms destroyed boats or bad catches meant no money, Miguel blamed himself for dreaming instead of working harder. Music became the one place where he felt strong. The idea of auditioning for America's Got Talent seemed impossible. He had never been on a plane before. He had never even left his island. But one day, a local charity group visited his school, encouraging students to apply for international talent programs. Miguel almost didn't sign up. He believed people like him were not meant for stages like that. But his mother saw the form in his bag and quietly filled it out for him, telling him that even if nothing came of it, at least the world would hear his voice once. Months later, Miguel found himself standing backstage in America, surrounded by flashing lights, cameras, and performers who looked like they belonged there. Dancers stretched confidently, singers warmed up with perfect notes. Miguel sat alone, clutching a small necklace his mother had given him before he left, her way of saying she was with him even from far away. When his name was called, he walked onto the stage slowly. The judges looked at him with polite curiosity. Simon Cowell leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. The audience waited, unsure of what to expect. Miguel introduced himself in a soft voice, his accent thick, his hands trembling slightly. When asked what he would sing, he said two words that made some people exchange glances. Billie Jean. There was a moment of hesitation in the room. It was a risky choice. Billie Jean was legendary. It had been sung by thousands, attempted by many, mastered by very few. Simon raised an eyebrow, clearly skeptical. He had seen too many contestants destroy great songs with overconfidence. The music started. At first, Miguel didn't move. He stood still, eyes closed, breathing deeply. Then he sang the first line, quietly, almost like a whisper. It was not an imitation of Michael Jackson. It was something different. His voice carried a raw, emotional edge, as if every word came from personal pain and hope mixed together. The audience leaned forward. As the song continued, Miguel's voice grew stronger. He didn't dance. He didn't try to copy Michael Jackson's moves. Instead, He told the story of the song through his voice alone. Every note was controlled, every pause intentional. The beat dropped, and instead of shouting, he pulled back, creating tension that filled the room. Simon Cowell's posture changed. By the chorus, the audience was silent, completely locked in. Some people had tears in their eyes, though they couldn't explain why. Miguel's voice cracked slightly on one note, not from weakness, but from emotion, and that imperfection made the performance even more powerful. Then came the twist no one expected. Midway through the song, the music softened, and Miguel shifted into a stripped-down version, slowing the tempo, turning Billie Jean into something almost haunting. It felt like a confession rather than a pop song. His voice echoed through the theater, and for the first time, Simon leaned forward, his eyes fixed on the stage. When the final note faded, there was a brief moment of silence. 1 second, 2 seconds. Then the theater exploded. The audience jumped to their feet, cheering louder than anyone had that night. The judges stood up. Even Simon Cowell was clapping, his expression stunned, almost emotional. He shook his head slowly, as if trying to process what he had just witnessed. When the judges spoke, they didn't talk about technique or range. They talked about feeling. Simon admitted that he had expected the performance to go wrong, that he had doubted Miguel from the moment he said the song title. But instead, he said, Miguel had taken a song the world thought it knew and made it personal, honest, and unforgettable. Miguel could barely hold back his tears. He thought of his parents watching from a small television back home, neighbors crowded around, electricity flickering, all of them hearing his voice travel across the world. That night, Miguel didn't just pass an audition. He changed his life. He became a symbol of how talent doesn't need perfect conditions to grow. It only needs courage, heart, and one moment where someone believes enough to step forward. And as the cameras faded out, one thing was clear. This Filipino teen didn't just sing Billie Jean. He told his own story through it, and in doing so, he reminded millions of people watching across America and beyond that dreams can cross oceans.